The sun rose slowly over New Gaia, the largest city on Earth, casting long golden beams across its floating gardens and crystal towers. For 1,000 years, humanity had known no war. The very idea of armies, battles, or conquest had become a story from the distant past, something studied in history classrooms or experienced only through virtual simulations. People traveled freely across the globe, moving from city to city, continent to continent without borders or suspicion. Nations had merged into a unified council that governed with wisdom, compassion, and a dedication to progress. Children played in the streets of New Gaia, laughing as small drones hovered beside them, gently guiding them when they stumbled. Their parents watched from hovering cafes, sipping beverages that glowed faintly in every color of the rainbow. Technology had become a tool for beauty, knowledge, and ease. No one needed to fight for resources because energy, food, and water were abundant and shared freely. Disease had been almost entirely eliminated, replaced by medicine that worked on the molecular level to repair the body before illnesses could take hold. Despite this perfection, humanity was not stagnant. Curiosity had always been the true engine of progress. Scientists and explorers studied distant stars, sending probes to neighboring systems and building ships that could travel faster than light. Artists created works that could make a person feel emotions they had never experienced before. Philosophers debated the nature of consciousness and the future of intelligence, both human and artificial. It was in this time of unbroken peace that something unusual appeared at the edge of the solar system. The first detection came from the Deep Space Array, a network of satellites and telescopes designed to monitor the heavens. An object moved through space with a speed and precision that no natural phenomenon could explain. It was not an asteroid, not a comet. It was something designed, something intelligent. When the news reached Earth, there was no panic. There was interest. Teams of scientists, diplomats, and leaders convened in the Great Council Hall of Earth. Holographic displays showed the object's trajectory, its structure, and its apparent size. The alien vessel was enormous, larger than any human city, sleek and metallic with surfaces that reflected the light of the distant sun like polished silver. "Are they hostile?" asked a young engineer named Leona, who had helped design some of the most advanced starships in human history. She stood among other council members, her hands folded behind her. A seasoned diplomat named Idris shook his head calmly. "We cannot assume anything. They are foreign, yes, but that does not mean they wish us harm. Our first move is always communication, understanding, and observation." Humanity had learned a long time ago that fear often led to mistakes. Wars in the past had begun from misunderstandings, from arrogance or suspicion. That was why, for 1,000 years, humans had focused on reasoning rather than violence. Now, with an alien presence approaching, they would do the same. As the days passed, the alien vessel moved closer. Drones and satellites streamed constant data back to Earth. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its engines glowed with a light that seemed to warp space around them. Its hull shifted in patterns that made it appear both solid and liquid at the same time. The aliens, whoever they were, clearly possessed intelligence and technology far beyond human standards. Yet humanity did not tremble. In laboratories and observatories, scientists studied the alien design with fascination. They discovered that the aliens were not attempting to hide. They were openly visible, almost proud of their presence. It was as if the ship itself was a signal, a statement. "We are here. We are powerful. What will you do?" On the day the aliens sent their first message, it arrived as a series of pulses and patterns, incomprehensible at first. Linguists, mathematicians, and artificial intelligences worked together to decode it. When the meaning became clear, the words were simple but sharp. Submit or perish. The council members met in silence for a long moment. Then Idris spoke. "Submission is not in our nature, but neither is fear. We will respond, not with anger or weapons, but with reason. We will show them who humanity has become." Leona was intrigued. "And what do we say to them?" "Politeness," Idris replied with a small smile. "And curiosity. We invite them to learn from us just as we wish to learn from them." So Earth responded, not with a fleet of warships, but with a message of introduction. It was a simple transmission. "Greetings. We are humans of Earth. We have known peace for 1,000 years. We wish to understand you." The aliens did not reply immediately. Days passed and their ship moved closer, scanning the planet. Humans observed quietly. Drones moved through the skies, mapping the alien energy patterns but always without aggression. It was a display not of weakness but of confidence. Meanwhile, ordinary people went about their lives as usual. In the streets, markets continued to hum with life. Artists painted murals inspired by the alien shapes glimpsed in space. Children made paper models of the ship and imagined themselves meeting beings from the stars. Farmers in distant lands looked up at the sky and wondered what other worlds might exist. Humanity had a unique quality. Even in the presence of potential danger, curiosity and creativity flourished. Inside New Gaia's central observatory, Leona worked with a team of engineers and scientists. They designed a series of communication probes that could mimic human emotion and thought patterns. The goal was not to intimidate, but to demonstrate intelligence, creativity, and reasoning. "We don't know if they have emotions," Leona said, adjusting a holographic model of the probe. "But if they do, maybe they will understand us better if we show them that our minds are full of art, music, and wonder, not just survival instincts." Her colleague, a biologist named Aaron, nodded. "That is the essence of our strength. War is not what makes us powerful. Curiosity, empathy, and the ability to think beyond ourselves, those are our weapons. If weapons they must be called." The alien ship finally positioned itself above Earth's atmosphere, casting a shadow across the oceans. It was the first time humans had seen it up close. It was enormous, far bigger than the largest cities, with surfaces that shimmered in colors that did not exist in human vision. For a moment, everyone on Earth could see it, from the smallest village to the largest metropolis. People stopped to look, not in fear, but in awe. Then the alien message came again. This time it was clearer. "Resistance is pointless. We are superior. You will be dominated." Idris received the message in the council hall and simply nodded. "They still do not understand. Dominance is irrelevant to us. We do not measure worth by conquest or power. They will learn this soon." Leona watched as humans continued to live normally. Children played, markets thrived, and artists continued their work. "It is almost like they do not even notice the alien ship," she said. "They notice," Idris replied. "But they are not afraid. That is the difference. Fear drives violence. Courage drives creation. We have courage, and we have creation. That is why they cannot understand us." Across the globe, humans broadcast a second message to the aliens. This one was more than words. It was a presentation of human achievement. Cities floating above forests, libraries containing the sum of human knowledge, machines that could create energy without harm, art that could move a mind, music that could move a soul. The aliens received not a threat, but an invitation to learn, to witness a civilization that had prospered for 1,000 years without a single battle. The alien ship hovered, silent and still. For hours it did nothing, as if trying to comprehend what it had seen. Humans waited, not in anticipation of violence, but in quiet patience. They had no need to rush. Finally, a small portion of the alien vessel detached and descended toward the planet. Humans prepared their reception, not with soldiers but with scientists, artists, and diplomats. The aliens landed in a valley, their shapes tall and metallic, their movements precise. Leona stepped forward. Her heart beat quickly, but her face was calm. "Welcome to Earth," she said, extending a hand in friendship. "We have waited 1,000 years for visitors from the stars. We are curious to meet you, to learn from you, and to show you who we are." The aliens paused, their sensors scanning her. The valley, the people gathered around. For the first time, there was no threat in their presence. There was only observation, and in that moment humanity smiled. Not in fear, not in triumph, but in quiet confidence. They had survived 1,000 years without war. Now, as the first alien visitors arrived, they would show the galaxy that true strength is not measured in weapons or dominance, but in the mind, the heart, and the courage to live in peace. The alien vessel hovered above the valley, its surface gleaming like liquid metal under the sun. It was larger and more complex than anything humans had imagined. Panels shifted subtly, giving the impression that the ship was alive, almost breathing. Its presence filled the air with a strange energy, something humans could sense but not name. People nearby felt it as a gentle hum, vibrating through the ground and into their bones. Leona and a team of diplomats, scientists, and artists approached carefully. They were not armed because weapons were not necessary. Humanity's strength lay not in fear or force, but in creativity, intelligence, and calm confidence. The aliens, for their part, moved with precision. Tall and angular, their forms were unfamiliar, limbs that bent in directions humans could not replicate, surfaces that shimmered with changing colors, eyes that seemed to see beyond visible light. A translator device hummed quietly, converting human words into patterns the aliens might understand. Leona spoke first, her voice calm and clear. "Greetings. We are humans of Earth. We live in peace. We are curious to meet you." The aliens paused, their heads tilting in unison. A series of lights pulsed along their bodies, a language of its own. The translator worked quickly, decoding the pulses into something comprehensible. The message came through simple and sharp. Observation. "You are unusual. Prepare for judgment." Leona's heart beat faster, but she remained composed. Humanity had never faced a challenge like this, yet they were not afraid. They had survived 1,000 years without war, not because they avoided danger, but because they faced it with intelligence and unity. The lead diplomat, Idris, stepped forward. "We do not fear judgment. We have thrived for a millennium without conflict. If you wish to understand our ways, we are happy to show you." The aliens responded with another series of pulses, which the translator rendered as, "Demonstrate strength. Your survival is irrelevant without power. Strength. Power." The words echoed in the valley. To the aliens, strength meant weapons, domination, and control. To humans, strength meant intellect, creativity, and the ability to overcome challenges without harm. The difference was profound, and it was the beginning of the test. Leona glanced at the team behind her. They expect a fight. They think that all intelligent life reacts with fear or aggression. But we will not react that way. We will show them something they cannot predict. The team had prepared a series of demonstrations, not of weapons, but of ingenuity. Scientists activated a floating display above the valley, showing Earth's energy systems, giant turbines that harnessed wind, solar and tidal power, machines that produced energy without destroying the planet. Artists projected moving images of human creativity, music, paintings, architecture, and dance. Engineers demonstrated advanced robotics that worked not to fight, but to build, to explore, to improve life. The aliens watched, tilting and twisting in ways that indicated curiosity. Their pulses grew faster, indicating increased activity. Humans interpreted this as interest. Slowly, the alien communication shifted from threatening to questioning. The translator picked up subtle changes in tone. "Curious. Explain this further." Leona smiled. "We live without war. Our cities, our technology, our knowledge, everything is designed to improve life, not to destroy. We survive not through fear, but through intelligence and cooperation. We believe that true strength comes from creating, not conquering." One of the alien forms extended a long, thin appendage toward the display, interacting with the holograms. It adjusted the energy projection, causing the images to change. It was an acknowledgement of understanding, though not complete agreement. Idris noted the small victory. The aliens were not aggressive yet. They were curious. Across the valley, children who had been watching from a safe distance whispered to one another. "They are like us, but not like us," one said. "They can think, but they do not play." Another child laughed softly. "Maybe they can learn." Leona's team prepared for the next demonstration, communication. They projected patterns of mathematics, physics, and logic, showing sequences that represented human understanding of the universe. They included puzzles, games, and challenges designed to illustrate problem-solving skills, cooperation, and creativity. The aliens responded by projecting their own patterns, revealing intelligence far beyond human standards. It was not a contest. It was a conversation. The day passed with careful exchanges. Humans showed curiosity and patience. Aliens showed observation and calculation. Neither side raised a weapon. And yet a quiet tension lingered. The aliens had the power to destroy everything in moments, and humans had no comparable force to resist in traditional ways. That night, in the Great Council Hall, Idris spoke to Leona and the team. "They are powerful, far more powerful than us, but they do not understand us. They cannot anticipate how a species that never fights will respond to threats." Leona nodded. "We are unpredictable because we do not follow their rules. They expect fear, aggression, or submission. We have none of those. Our strength is different. The next day, the aliens introduced their first test. A small probe detached from the main vessel and hovered above a field, scanning and analyzing everything in sight. The probe emitted light pulses and energy waves designed to intimidate, to provoke a reaction. Most civilizations would have panicked or attacked. Humanity responded differently. Scientists quickly deployed small counterprobes not to attack, but to analyze and redirect the energy harmlessly. Engineers created a holographic barrier that reflected the probe's light patterns, transforming intimidation into a dazzling display of colors and motion. Children watched in amazement as the valley lit up like a festival. The aliens observed silently, their pulses faster than before. Leona explained to the team, they expected fear. They expected aggression. Instead, we have shown creativity. We have shown intelligence. Every move we make teaches them that humans are not predictable. The aliens did not destroy the probes. They did not withdraw. They paused, seemingly trying to understand. Idris, watching from the control room, said quietly, "They are learning. Slowly, they are learning." Over the next few days, humanity continued to interact with the aliens through demonstrations, explanations, and dialogue. Humans shared knowledge of their history, not as a boast but as a story of growth. They explained how humanity had survived for 1,000 years without war, using reason, empathy, and cooperation. They showed achievements in medicine, technology, arts, and exploration. The aliens, in turn, shared patterns of information. Humans could sense intelligence in every pulse, every movement. Yet the aliens struggled to comprehend concepts that were foreign to their experience. Peace without force, creativity as strength, compassion as strategy. Leona reflected on the situation as she watched the alien ship above the valley. They see power as domination. We see power as understanding. That is why they cannot predict us. That is why they cannot intimidate us. They do not understand a species that thrives without fear. The first week of contact ended with a quiet but significant development. One of the alien forms approached humans directly, extending an appendage in a gesture that mirrored the human hand. It was tentative, cautious, and human observers felt a small thrill. The aliens were attempting to communicate directly, seeking understanding. Leona stepped forward, smiling gently. "We welcome you," she said. "We have no need for conflict. We have only curiosity, knowledge, and friendship." The alien form paused, processing the words. The pulse pattern shifted slowly, then stabilized. It was a moment of recognition, a small bridge between two civilizations. Humans had not fought. They had not panicked. They had responded with intelligence, creativity, and calm. Idris observed from a distance and said quietly to Leona, "This is the beginning. They may be powerful, but we are unpredictable. That is our advantage. Strength is not always measured by weapons. Sometimes it is measured by understanding and courage." As night fell over the valley, the alien ship hovered silently above. Humans returned to their cities, their curiosity undimmed, their calm unwavering. The first contact had been made, and it was not a battle. It was a conversation, a test of intelligence, patience, and creativity. Humanity had survived 1,000 years without war. Now faced with a civilization that expected dominance, they had demonstrated that true strength lies in the mind, not the fist. And as the stars twinkled overhead, Earth prepared for the next step, a deeper interaction with beings who had come expecting fear, only to find a species that smiled back with curiosity and calm confidence. The alien ship lingered above Earth, silent and imposing. Its metallic surface shimmered like liquid metal under the sun, and subtle pulses of light raced across its hull as if it were alive. Scientists, diplomats, and artists worked together, analyzing every movement, every energy reading. Earth had already proven that it could communicate without fear, but the aliens were not yet satisfied. They wanted a demonstration of strength, though not strength as humans understood it, but domination and control. Leona stood in the valley once more, surrounded by her team. The aliens had issued a message the night before. Demonstrate your ability to respond to threat. Show strength or be deemed inferior. Humans had anticipated this. Unlike most civilizations, humanity did not measure strength by destruction or aggression. They measured it by ingenuity, creativity, and intelligence. Leona took a deep breath and spoke. They expect fear or combat. We will respond differently. We will show them that humans think beyond aggression. That is our strength. Engineers and scientists activated the first stage of the demonstration. Small drones swarmed the valley not to attack, but to create a dynamic environment filled with puzzles, illusions, and interactive challenges. The alien probes approached cautiously, scanning every movement. They had never seen such activity, machines moving in coordinated patterns that did not seek to harm, yet displayed intelligence and adaptability. The first test began when the aliens projected an energy field across the valley. It was a defensive measure, intended to trap humans or at least intimidate them. The humans did not panic. Instead, they analyzed the field, noting its properties and weaknesses. Engineers deployed reflective drones that bent the alien energy harmlessly into the sky, turning the attempt at intimidation into a spectacular display of light and motion. Children watching from safe observation points cheered, marveling at the colors and patterns dancing across the valley. "This is working," Idris said quietly to Leona. They expected fear. They expected aggression. Instead, they are seeing creativity and intelligence. That is confusing them. The aliens reacted by sending a series of probes in complex patterns, each one designed to simulate an attack. Their movements were precise, calculated, and intimidating. Yet humans did not fight. They adapted. They created holographic decoys, optical illusions, and dynamic puzzles that neutralized the alien probes without a single weapon being fired. The probes collided with the illusions and bounced away harmlessly, as if the aliens themselves were learning to respect human creativity. Leona's eyes sparkled as she watched the interaction. "They think in patterns of control and dominance," she said. "We think in patterns of problem-solving and cooperation. That is why they cannot predict us. That is why we are strong." Across the valley, the aliens began to adjust their approach. They analyzed the humans' methods, trying to anticipate the next move. But humans were unpredictable, not in chaos, but in ingenuity. Each solution led to a new challenge. Each display of creativity sparked further adaptation. The aliens had never encountered a civilization that responded to threat with innovation rather than fear. The Council broadcasted a second message to the aliens, this one more complex. It contained examples of human problem-solving on a planetary scale. Systems that redistributed resources efficiently, mechanisms that healed the environment, and simulations of conflict resolution without violence. The message was clear. Humanity thrived not through conquest but through intelligence, cooperation, and reasoning. One of the alien commanders, taller and more angular than the others, extended a long appendage toward the display, interacting with the holograms. It twisted and adjusted patterns, attempting to create a test that humans could not solve. For the first time, humans faced a challenge that required real collaboration. Leona and her team moved quickly. Scientists calculated probabilities while artists suggested patterns, and engineers implemented them. Every decision was precise, every movement deliberate. The alien challenge unfolded like a puzzle, complex and layered, yet humans approached it as they had approached every challenge in their history. Together, with intelligence and creativity, hours passed as humans and aliens engaged in this trial. Each move by the aliens was countered with a human solution that did not attack, did not destroy, but neutralized and transformed the challenge. The valley became a theater of intellect, a place where ideas, problem-solving, and ingenuity replaced weapons and aggression. Idris observed from the control center, noting the subtle changes in alien behavior. "They are beginning to understand," he said. "They expected fear. They expected aggression. They are seeing something entirely different. Humans are unpredictable because they do not act according to fear or instinct. They act according to thought and reason." Meanwhile, humanity shared not only strategy, but also philosophy. Leona addressed the alien commander directly, using the translator to convey ideas. "Strength is not measured by force. It is measured by creativity, cooperation, and understanding. We do not conquer. We innovate. We do not destroy. We protect and improve. That is our true power." The alien pulses slowed, a subtle indication of consideration. For the first time, they seemed to hesitate, not out of weakness but from confusion. Humans had introduced a concept outside the scope of their experience. They had met intelligence not with aggression, but with ingenuity. As the sun began to set, the trial reached its climax. The aliens deployed a final probe, a complex machine designed to simulate overwhelming force. Humans analyzed it quickly, noting that it relied on speed, precision, and anticipation. They deployed countermeasures, not weapons, but systems that reflected, redirected, and adapted. The probe's energy was harmlessly dispersed, and its patterns were altered into a display of light and color that shimmered across the valley. Children laughed and clapped, pointing at the dazzling spectacle. The aliens observed silently, their pulses more measured than ever. They had expected fear and submission. Instead, they saw creativity, collaboration, and intelligence. They had expected chaos or aggression. Instead, they saw calm, deliberate, and confident problem-solving. Leona stepped forward, addressing the alien commander again. You sought to test our strength. You expected fear. You expected aggression. We offer neither. We offer intelligence, creativity, and cooperation. That is our strength. That is what allows a species to survive and thrive for 1,000 years without war. For a long moment, the alien commander remained still. Then it extended its appendage toward the humans, a gesture of acknowledgement. The translator conveyed a single phrase: unpredictable, impressive, continued demonstration. The humans had passed the first trial, not by fighting, not by submission, but by thinking beyond the framework of fear and violence. The aliens were learning that humanity's strength was not in weapons or dominance, but in intelligence, creativity, and cooperation. That evening, as humans returned to their cities, a quiet celebration began. People had witnessed the first true test of humanity against an alien species, and they had succeeded, not by destroying, not by surrendering, but by being themselves. Leona reflected on the day as she watched the stars above. They will try again, she said. They will continue to test us. But every challenge they send, every attempt at intimidation only reveals our true strength. They cannot predict a species that survives through thought, not fear. Idris nodded beside her. Humanity is different. That is what makes us strong. Not our technology alone, not our numbers, but our minds and our hearts. We face challenges with curiosity, creativity, and courage. That is why we endure. Across the planet, similar scenes unfolded. Communities watched the alien probes, engineers adapted their systems, and children imagined new possibilities. Humanity's reaction was uniform, calm, thoughtful, and confident. The species had survived for 1,000 years without war. Now, in the face of an alien presence expecting fear and aggression, they thrived using mind, creativity, and cooperation. And in the quiet of the night, as the alien ship hovered above the valley, humans rested with the knowledge that strength can take many forms. And sometimes the greatest power is the ability to think, adapt, and create without destruction. The first trial of wits was complete. The aliens had begun to understand that humans were not just intelligent, they were unpredictable, resourceful, and unafraid. They had met a species whose mind was sharper than any weapon, whose curiosity was deeper than any strategy of conquest, and whose unity was stronger than any force of domination. And humanity, as always, remained calm, curious, and ready for whatever challenge the universe would bring next. The alien vessel remained above Earth, massive and silent, yet the tension that once filled the air had begun to fade. The first trials had passed, and humanity had demonstrated its unusual strength, creativity, intelligence, and unity. The aliens were curious now, not threatening, not hostile, but observing, and Earth was ready to meet that curiosity with its own. Leona stood in the center of the Great Council Hall, reviewing plans with Idris and the other team leaders. The decision had been made. Humans would invite the aliens to Earth itself. The valley where the first contact had occurred would serve as the reception area. Cities, floating gardens, and energy networks were ready to showcase the achievements of a species that had thrived for 1,000 years without war. They have never seen a civilization like ours, Leona said, adjusting her tablet. We will show them not power, but possibility. Not fear, but curiosity. That is our advantage, Idris nodded. They expect domination. They will see something entirely different. We must demonstrate that strength is not always in weapons. Sometimes it is in knowledge, creativity, and understanding. The next morning, the alien delegation descended from the ship. Unlike before, this time they moved with a sense of deliberation, almost as if they were stepping carefully into a world that had no need for conflict. Humans greeted them with calm confidence. Diplomats, scientists, and artists were at the ready, prepared not to negotiate a surrender, but to share the story of human civilization. Leona led the delegation first to the floating gardens of New Gaia. Vast terraces hung in the air, covered with flowers, fruits, and trees. Streams of water ran through the gardens, harnessed to create energy without harming the environment. Children laughed as they played among the plants, and drones gently floated overhead, monitoring and assisting where needed. The aliens observed in silence. Their sensors shifted, taking in every detail. They had encountered planets before, but never a civilization that used technology so harmoniously with nature. One of the alien forms extended a thin appendage to touch a leaf. It paused, perhaps experiencing something entirely new. The sensation of living growth in harmony with intelligent design. Leona explained gently, using the translator. We create not to destroy, but to enhance life. We have learned to live with our environment, not against it. That is one form of strength. Next, the delegation visited the great library of knowledge. Here, every discovery, every book, every piece of recorded wisdom from humanity's history was stored in an interactive network. Visitors could access information not just by reading, but by experiencing simulations, historical events, scientific phenomena, even artistic expressions. The aliens moved through the library, their forms adjusting to navigate the holographic projections. They paused at simulations of past human achievements, building cities, exploring space, creating music, and learning from mistakes. Humans had learned that growth came not from conquering others, but from understanding themselves and their surroundings. An alien commander extended its appendage to a simulation showing the evolution of human society. The translator rendered the pulses as curious. How did you survive without conflict for so long? Leona smiled. By understanding each other. By valuing cooperation over competition. By thinking beyond instinct and fear. We are not perfect, but we have learned that intelligence and empathy can prevent war and encourage progress. The alien delegation continued through a series of technological displays. Machines that could produce energy cleanly, devices that healed the body at the molecular level, starships capable of exploring distant systems without harm. They observed everything. But unlike humans, they seemed hesitant to touch or interact. Humans realized this was because the aliens expected fear or aggression. Humanity's calm confidence was disarming in a way that no weapon could match. Leona guided the visitors to the art pavilion, where human creativity was displayed in its most imaginative forms. Paintings that changed with the viewer's emotions, sculptures that moved in response to touch, music that could evoke memories and feelings long forgotten. The aliens watched silently, their sensors recording patterns that even they seemed unable to fully interpret. Creativity is also strength, Leona said softly. It allows us to understand, to communicate, to solve problems in ways that fear and violence never could. It allows us to endure, to grow, to thrive. For hours, humans and aliens moved together through the city. Scientists answered questions about energy systems.
Engineers demonstrated advanced machines.
Artists explained their work. Children, unafraid and curious, interacted with the aliens, offering flowers, drawings, and songs. The aliens seemed hesitant at first, but gradually they began to respond in small ways, mirroring gestures, observing more closely, and pulsing lights that indicated interest and understanding. The highlight of the day was a demonstration of human exploration technology. Leona led the aliens to the launch site of an interstellar research vessel. The ship glowed softly under the light of the setting sun, ready to travel beyond the solar system. Humans explained how they explored not to conquer, but to learn, to connect with the universe, and to discover what other civilizations and phenomena existed. The alien commander extended a long appendage, tracing the outline of the ship. The translator conveyed a message. Impressive. You adapt. You innovate. You survive, Leona responded. That is what humans have done for 1,000 years. We survive not through weapons, but through curiosity, intelligence, and collaboration. That is our true strength. As night fell, the aliens paused at the edge of the city, looking out over Earth's lights. Towers shimmered, gardens floated, and the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Humans observed quietly, letting the visitors absorb everything without interruption. This was not intimidation. It was demonstration. Proof of what a civilization could achieve when it thrived without war. Idris spoke softly to Leona, standing beside her. They expected fear and submission. Instead, they are seeing a civilization that grows stronger through understanding and creativity. That is something no force of aggression can match. Leona nodded. They are learning that strength is not always measured by power over others. Sometimes strength is measured by what you create, what you understand, and what you endure without harming anyone. The alien delegation remained overnight, observing human society. For the first time, they experienced a civilization that was not ruled by domination or aggression. They witnessed families, communities, scientists, and artists all working together to improve life, not destroy it. The following day, the aliens initiated their own demonstration. A series of complex holographic patterns appeared in the sky, a test of intelligence and observation. Humans approached it not as a threat, but as a puzzle to solve. Teams of engineers, mathematicians, and artists collaborated to analyze and respond, creating solutions that were both elegant and efficient. The aliens watched in fascination as humans solved challenges using creativity rather than force. Leona explained to the delegation, "We respond to challenges not with violence, but with thought. That is how we survive, that is how we thrive, and that is how we hope to build relationships with other civilizations, through understanding, not domination." By the end of the visit, the aliens had begun to change. Their pulses slowed, their movements became less rigid, and their communication patterns shifted. They had come expecting fear and resistance, but they found calm intelligence and curiosity. Humans had shown them that strength could exist without aggression. That power could be measured in knowledge and creativity rather than destruction. Leona looked up at the alien commander, who now extended an appendage in a gesture of acknowledgement. The translator rendered it as, "We observe. We learn. We are intrigued by your civilization." Idris smiled quietly. "This is the first step. They are beginning to understand. They will respect us not because of weapons, but because of who we are." As the aliens prepared to depart, the council decided to leave them with one final demonstration, the city itself, at night. Lights shimmered across towers and floating gardens, reflecting in rivers and lakes. Music filled the air, soft and harmonious, blending with the natural sounds of the environment. Humans watched as the alien delegation observed, recording patterns, learning, and perhaps beginning to reconsider their expectations of strength and civilization. Leona took a deep breath. They came expecting domination. They are leaving with curiosity and respect. That is what makes humanity unique. That is what makes us strong. And as the alien vessel lifted into the sky, slowly retreating to the edge of Earth's atmosphere, humans continued their lives with calm confidence. They had survived 1,000 years without war. And now they had faced a civilization that expected fear and aggression, and had responded with curiosity, intelligence, and creativity. Humanity smiled, not in triumph but in quiet assurance. The aliens had learned something profound. True power does not always come from force. Sometimes it comes from thought, from understanding, and from the courage to live peacefully while facing the unknown. And Earth, as always, remained ready for the universe, confident in its mind, its creativity, and its unshakable calm. The alien vessel had returned to Earth's orbit, but this time there was an unmistakable purpose in its presence. It was larger, more imposing, and its movements were precise. Humans sensed that the aliens were preparing a new kind of test, one designed not to communicate, but to measure the limits of human ingenuity and adaptability. Leona stood in the observation deck of the Great Council Hall, surrounded by engineers, scientists, and strategists. Holograms of the alien fleet floated in the air before them, shifting with patterns that simulated attacks and strategic maneuvers. Unlike previous encounters, this demonstration suggested force, even though humans had no reason to believe the aliens would attack physically. The aliens expected submission, fear, or resistance. Humans would provide none of these. Idris turned to the team. They believe that power comes from domination. They think that survival requires violence. We will show them that strength is measured differently. Today, our creativity, intelligence, and cooperation will be our weapons. The first probe descended rapidly toward one of the city's energy grids, designed to test human reactions. Engineers and scientists quickly analyzed the probe's movements, noting its speed, energy output, and pattern algorithms. Instead of preparing to destroy it, they created a network of reflective drones, that redirected the probe's energy into harmless light displays. The probe's attack turned into a spectacular show of color and motion, impressing the observing aliens. Leona watched the scene unfold. "They are learning slowly," she said. "Every move they make is based on assumptions of fear or aggression. When they find neither, they are forced to reconsider." The aliens increased the complexity of the test. Multiple probes moved in unpredictable patterns, some simulating aggressive strikes, others attempting to isolate human teams. Humans responded in kind, but not with weapons. They used strategy, coordination, and ingenuity. Holographic decoys, optical illusions, and autonomous drones created patterns that redirected the probe's energy safely, while teaching the aliens a lesson in unpredictability. In one instance, a probe targeted the communication hub of New Gaia, aiming to disrupt the city's network. Scientists quickly devised a countermeasure, a holographic maze that guided the probe through harmless loops while simultaneously streaming information about human history and achievements back to the alien ship. It was not aggression, it was education disguised as strategy. The alien commanders observed with growing interest. Their pulses and patterns of movement became more deliberate, less rigid. They were learning that humans did not respond to threats in ways they expected. Humans did not panic, submit, or attack, they adapted, they thought. Leona convened a quick strategy meeting. "They are testing us because they expect fear or force. We will not give them either. We will respond with intelligence, creativity, and calm. Every action we take is a lesson," her team agreed. Engineers, scientists, and artists collaborated to design a series of interactive challenges for the aliens' probes. Each system demonstrated human ingenuity, while keeping all life unharmed. Optical illusions, energy redirection, and collaborative problem-solving replaced weapons and aggression. It was a demonstration of a civilization that thrived for 1,000 years without war. Hours passed as the aliens continued their trial. They increased the speed and complexity of their probes, testing humans' limits, but humans responded with ingenuity and adaptability that the aliens could not predict. Where the aliens sought dominance, humans offered creativity. Where the aliens expected submission, humans provided innovation. At one point, an alien probe attempted to simulate an overwhelming strike by coordinating multiple drones in precise patterns. Humans quickly analyzed the patterns and devised a counter-system, a network of adaptive drones that not only neutralized the attack, but also created new patterns of light and motion that illustrated the beauty of problem-solving. Children and observers alike watched in awe as the valley transformed into a living display of intelligence and art. The alien commander, observing from above, extended a long appendage and emitted a series of pulses. The translator converted them. "Unusual. Cannot predict." "Continue demonstration," Leona smiled. "They do not understand our strength because it does not follow their rules. That is exactly why we are powerful. Strength is not force. Strength is thought, collaboration, and creativity. That is what allows a species to endure." The next challenge came in the form of an energy grid test. The aliens simulated a system overload that could disrupt human infrastructure. Engineers immediately deployed energy redistribution systems, rerouting power safely, while simultaneously creating dynamic displays of lights and motion. The overload became harmless, and the aliens observed with patterns that suggested fascination. Idris spoke quietly to Leona. "They are beginning to comprehend, in their own way. They see that humans survive without aggression. They see that humans thrive through intelligence and creativity. That is a lesson no weapon can teach." But the aliens were not yet finished. They had one final test in mind, a simulation designed to push humans to their limits. Multiple probes, coordinated from the main vessel, moved in complex patterns meant to overwhelm human analysis systems. They expected humans to fail, to panic, or to submit. Humans responded differently. Teams of engineers, mathematicians, and artists collaborated seamlessly, analyzing patterns, predicting movements, and adapting in real time. Holographic projections, optical illusions, and dynamic energy systems transformed the alien simulation into a spectacle of intelligence and ingenuity. The probes were neutralized not through destruction, but through creative problem-solving. The alien commanders emitted pulses that the translator interpreted as impressive, unpredictable. Your species adapts in ways we cannot anticipate. Leona addressed the aliens directly using the translator. You came expecting fear and aggression. You expected us to react as other civilizations might. Instead, we have shown you intelligence, creativity, and collaboration. That is our true strength. That is why humanity survives and thrives without war. For a long moment, the alien delegation was silent, observing the human city, the adaptive systems, and the creative displays. Slowly, the pulses changed, becoming more measured and deliberate. They had begun to understand a concept outside their experience, that strength does not always come from force, domination, or aggression. It can come from intelligence, creativity, and unity. As the day ended, the aliens hovered quietly above the city. Humans had passed the ultimate test, not through fear, not through weapons, but through thought and collaboration. They had demonstrated that a civilization could survive and thrive without ever resorting to war. Leona reflected on the events as she walked through the city streets. Children played freely among floating gardens. Scientists and artists worked side by side. Families gathered, laughing and sharing knowledge. Humanity's strength was not in domination. It was in its mind, its heart, and its ability to think creatively under pressure. Idris joined her. They came expecting aggression and fear. They leave recognizing something else entirely. Humans are powerful because they are unpredictable in ways the universe cannot calculate. They are powerful because they think, create, and endure without destroying. Leona nodded. Every challenge they send, every attempt to measure us only proves our point. True strength is not weapons.
It is the courage to live, to think, and to create, even in the presence of forces far stronger than ourselves. The alien vessel began to withdraw slightly from orbit, not in retreat, but in observation.
Their test was complete. They had witnessed a civilization that thrived on intelligence, collaboration, and creativity. They had seen humans solve challenges without aggression, transform threats into opportunities, and remain calm under pressure. For humans, it was a quiet victory. They had faced the ultimate test of ingenuity, and they had passed, not through power, but through the unique combination of thought, curiosity, and unity. Leona looked to the stars and whispered, "They will return, no doubt. But when they do, they will not see fear. They will not see aggression. They will see a species that thrives because it thinks, creates, and works together. That is our greatest strength." And as night fell over Earth, cities glowed with light, gardens shimmered in the gentle breeze, and humans continued their lives with quiet confidence. They had survived 1,000 years without war. Now, they had faced the most advanced alien civilization the galaxy had ever seen, and had responded with the kind of strength that could never be destroyed. The aliens, observing from above, emitted a final pulse before retreating to the edge of the solar system. "Your species is remarkable. We will return to observe. We will learn. You have shown us a strength unlike any we have known." Humans smiled, not in triumph, but in calm assurance. They had passed the ultimate test, demonstrating that true power lies not in destruction, but in intelligence, creativity, and collaboration, and Earth, as always, remained ready for the universe, confident in its mind, its curiosity, and its unshakable calm.